Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk God, Jesus, and Faith today. I am your host, Crystal Ruiz, and I'm here with Dr. Tom Slayton.
Hey, everybody. How you doing today?
You know, this world is full of so much chaos right now, Tom.
We are in chaotic times.
It's horrible. And all the stress that's put on us, it's just in our daily lives normally, but now you add on all this chaos. And I'm wondering, what does God have to say about the chaos? What does God have to say about stress? I think that's what we should communicate today. It's important to get that out there.
Well, I remember something when I was, I'm going to say a little kid, just say in my youth. My mom stressed something to me. She says, remember, you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's not taught anymore.
No, but it was the same thing I learned.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, when people will do to others like they want done to them, we wouldn't have the chaos. But like you said, it's not taught anymore.
Yeah.
And now everyone is doing, quote unquote, as one of those songs says, your own thing. Well, your own thing is detrimental to a life in a civilized society. And we're becoming more and more and more uncivilized day by day.
That's a horrible thought. Earlier we were talking off the air about, do you remember that book, 1984?
Yes.
And, everyone's like, well, we're finally here at 1984. But I think we've been here for a while.
A long time, yes.
It's just, It's open now. It's out in public. They don't even care. They just
now, I think we're 2 generations into it, and that's why it's getting worse and worse. Because the kids in 2 generations before me, they were not taught the things that I was taught. Church was not at all a necessity, where when I grew up, church was a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday, you went to church. I don't care what happens, you went to church. If you opened your eyes, you went to church. Not anymore. So many people, they have no concept of going to church. Well, where do we get our moral values from? Just how you feel?
Yeah.
I just think I want to do this. You can't just do that. You have to be respectful of the people around you, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it's more than that. I think that you not only have to respect them, but you have to respect God. You have to respect the position He's put you in.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't see it yet, especially new Christians. It's hard for them to see where do they fit in that picture, God's picture.
This is true.
Even though when you're in God's picture and you're going, okay, He's got a plan for you, and you're going, that is so much bigger than what I'm thinking. I some of the places I've been, some of the things I've done, you think I'm standing in front of 1,000 people at an event speaking, and all I could do was turn it over to Him because I was terrified. I mean, the lights, the cameras, and I was going.
I've never figured out, and I've had to speak in front of thousands, and I've never figured out, why do we get this anxiety? The people are not going to jump up and beat us up.
No,
They're not going to throw things at.
They want you to be successful.
Come from? Yeah, they're rooting you on. Well, inherently, there's something in us that has the propensity to go negative. And we have to change that by understanding the Word of God, because God tells us, go positive.
Isn't negative, it's more than negative. It's putting that fear on you.
Yeah, well, fear is negative.
And fear comes from Satan, right?
Yeah, but it comes from us naturally, too. Because people that know nothing about God or Satan, they will still experience fear.
Good point. Good point.
But what it is something inherently in you that has to be trained out of you in order to do good all the time. Not most of the time, not sometime. It's do right all the time.
Isn't that what they used to say? When you can tell by the fruits of your labor, right?
Yes.
Your fruits of your tree.
Right.
And if they're doing good, you did good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make sure. I had somebody come up to me a couple days ago, and they were stunned at my kids and how well behaved they were. And they said, your kids have always been well behaved. It's amazing how you raise them, and they always do what's right and what's good, and they're helpers, and they get care, and they're compassionate. And I was like, thank you. I didn't really know what to say. I mean, how many times does somebody come up and tell you something like that? It doesn't really happen. And so I was really a little stunned by it. I'm very proud of my kids because they do go out of their way to help. They try and do their best. And we tried to do our best when raising them. And I'll be honest, I've told you before, sometimes we can't go to church. Sometimes we just can't make it. Sometimes right now it's an election time, so I am burning the candle at both ends and one right in the middle. And so
only one in the middle?
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh, we still got room.
Sometimes. But sometimes I have to take it and step back. And usually when I miss church, it's because I had something going on Friday and Saturday. And then I'm like, I just can't, function at that point. And it's like, okay, but that's why we do things like this. This is not a substitute for church, but it is a complement to church. So if we happen to miss, we can watch this.
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reach people at the level of people. When you think of church, most people, they think of the religion. Well, we're not trying to do the religion of church. We're just trying to talk to people.
Right, talk about God.
Yeah, there's certain things that inherently you want to do. I want to be treated in a certain way all the time. Everybody wants respect. Everybody wants to feel safe. You want to feel safe in your goods, etc. I was thinking, you were saying a moment ago how well we're doing now. I can think back when I lived on the East Coast, that it was like a struggle. We didn't know how we were going to pay our rent in the projects. Our rent was $34 a month.
Oh, wow.
But my dad was only making $7 a week.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So, how do you make it? Well, I'm happy to say that God always provides. We learned how to pray. And it seems like in the most unusual ways, positive things would happen to us. I remember being taught a simple lesson that they don't teach anymore. And it's just so easy. You know what it is?
What?
Smile.
Oh, yep, you love that. You love to smile.
Just smile.
And it confuses people.
Well, it does because people would have a natural grumpiness to them, and they don't have to.
Well, nowadays, like I said, this world is chaotic. It's absolutely gone nuts.
Right.
And we sit around quietly as Christians, not doing anything about it. And the simplest thing we could do is smile. Smile at people.
Yeah.
One thing I love to do, and it just confuses people, but then those who are Christians, they get the biggest smile on their face. At Christmas time, I say, Merry Christmas. I'm walking down the street, I pass someone, I say, Merry Christmas. My kids do it.
People do nothing for one another anymore, or they're afraid to do things for people they don't know. Last night, I was coming home, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to stop at McDonald's. So I went to McDonald's, and I'm in the line by the talking machine. And a guy off in the distance, he says, Mister, he said, would you be able to get me something to eat? And I thought, why, sure. What do you want? He says, could you get me a chicken sandwich? I said, sure, I'll get you a chicken sandwich. Meet me around front. So I got home. I could never find this guy. He was not around the front. So I had a chicken sandwich that I hadn't planned to have. But I said, thank God I'm in a position today that my heart compelled me to respond to him, as opposed to just, no, I ain't doing it. Why should I give you anything? I don't know you.
How do you know that he wasn't an angel? Testing to see if you...
I don't know.
And that's the, I'm not saying going out and buying food for all the homeless.
No, I understand. No, I understand that.
But sometimes it comes upon our heart to do good. We don't know why, but we do it.
Yeah.
And as long as we respond in a positive way, we're good.
You do good because it's right.
Right. As a politician and
Right.
somebody who is in charge of a city or on the council for a city, I'm going to tell you, not all homeless people are safe. Do not do that. Be very, very careful. The difference between you and me, Tom, is you're 6'8", and I'm 5'6.5". I'm much
Yeah, that's a
smaller.
little difference.
So
Plus, I weigh twice what you weigh.
right. I'm less intimidating, and usually if I have kids with me, then it's even more so. You're in more of a vulnerable state. So you just want to use your common sense. Don't offer to. I saw.
I'll tell you a funny. I used to think, well, if you're sitting in your car, no one can tell how big you are anyway. It really doesn't matter. You're just as equal with everybody else.
Nope.
No, you're not. You drive by something, you'll see that big head sitting in the window.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. My brother's 6'8" almost. Or he'll claim 6'5", but he's really 6'8". And he used to sit. I had a Jensen Healy, and it was a convertible.
I know what a Jensen Healy
and his
is.
head would fit above the thing.
Windshield, yeah.
He's all like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys ride different in cars. You look totally different in cars than I do. My aunt is probably 5 foot, and she has a little cushion she has to sit on under her to drive, and that way she's more comfortable and she can see over that dash. I always hate sitting behind the dais. We get to these big daises over at the county supervisor's office, and when we do our meetings, we're at their dais, and the chairs are already down low. So when I sit down, I'm like this little kid. I'm looking over the dais like this, and I have to raise the seat up. You don't have that problem. You can just sit on the lowest level.
When I worked a secular job years ago, my cousin came out to see me, and we were riding around in my first new car.
Oh.
My first new car was a Datsun 2000 Sports Roadster.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was too small for me when I looked at it because I'm only 6'8". My cousin is 6'11 and a half.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're riding around in this thing, and we're up in north.
How'd you get in it?
Carefully.
I'm like, I can just picture this.
We were riding around in North Long Beach, and a guy, he was walking down the street, and he looked at us. He said, "You guys look too big for that car." I says, "What do you mean?" So I stepped out, and he went, "Oh my." He looked at me. Then my cousin stepped out. He went, "Oh my God." He said, "This is as close to childbirth as I'll ever see."
That's too funny. Oh my gosh. But I want to get back to the chaos, today. And I want to talk about, you mentioned something, way back when you were struggling and you were making, your rent was $34 a month. I know there's a lot of people struggling today. We struggle, and I've learned more and more to lean on God, like you said.
That's what you must do.
Because we never know how, once my husband lost his job, we were like, okay, I had already lost my job from COVID. And so it's been, the last couple of years have been really difficult. And we've had to come to the conclusion that working another job and being a politician is not what it's cracked up to be. People don't want me there because they're afraid I'm going to, call the health department or call whatever department because they're violating a law, or they don't want to jump in politically, So for me, it really surprised me how difficult it was and is to get a job. And for my husband, he's almost 60. And he's
a real
got
kid, huh?
for you he is. For everyone else, he's up there. And but when he's looking for a job, all these younger kids get the job, and they don't even, if they
don't even consider him.
Yeah, he's not even.
I understand that.
And it's ridiculous. But I've also learned over the many years that I've been here that when times are difficult, More millionaires are born, and in this case, billionaires are born during these times. And what I mean, I don't mean by birth, but I mean by ingenuity and creating their own livelihood. And so we've had to do that.
Because nobody will hire you.
Right.
Definitely, you got to do that.
We got
surely.
to figure out how
Yeah.
to do our own thing.
Right.
This podcast, any donations that come in for this podcast go directly to the church, and it's a tax deduction for the church.
It's tax deductible, yes.
And you can always donate, via the link that is in the description. And I know you have church on Sundays and Wednesdays. Sundays it's 10:30, and Wednesdays it's 7.
Right.
And it's at 777 South San Jacinto Avenue.
In the city of San Jacinto.
You got it. You got it. So if you wanted to come by or stop by, you're more than welcome. If you wanted to mail a
Sure.
check to Pastor Tom, you can make it out to VBCC, and they'll get that, and they would greatly appreciate it with all the way.
It's P.O. Box 810, Hemet, California.
And what's the zip?
92546.
I don't know. I'm not in him.
I think it's 46.
But the point is that your church during COVID, the COVID lockdown nearly killed a lot of churches, and it took out probably half our congregation. And I don't mean by they died. That's not what I mean.
No.
But what I mean is they found a different way to find church, and they went. Most people who go to church, regular building, are a little bit older, generally speaking, unless they go to these churches, and we've often talked about it, the ones that are all flashy and,
Well, the flashiness is not what going to church is all about, but I know what you're talking about. But, getting away from church so much and getting to people have to be taught the basic of Christianity, which is to love your brethren.
yeah.
That's what we have to go back to doing that. I was thinking of during the struggling times, there were people that would go around finding out who did not have a job and who needed food. I mean, all of a sudden, you don't have a job, your husband don't have a job. The supermarket doesn't say, "Oh, come on in." So there has to be a group of benevolent people that will get together and be willing to feed you. I have over the years eaten some stuff that I looked at and I go, I don't know what it is, but thank God for it.
Yeah.
Because it was, and it tastes good too, but it was people taking care of one another. Now we have lost this, I don't know if it's a desire or willingness or whatever. We don't want to take care of one another. We want to be to ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to stop it.
Well, we do, because human beings are social.
Yes.
We're a species
gregarious.
that
Yeah.
yeah, and so being alone is
Creepy.
well, it's not what we were meant to be.
No.
We were never meant to be. Our spirits, not just the outside physical shell, but our spirits were not meant to be alone. We are supposed to want to associate with those who are like-minded, and that's why Christians go to Christian church. You don't see a Christian going to a Buddhist church. You don't generally see a Buddhist going to a Christian church.
Right.
But that lockdown killed a lot of them, and everything turned upside down. And not only did the churches pay a heavy price, but I think that's what they were intending.
Well, I think so too, because I'm still question the legitimacy of the lockdown.
There was no legitimacy.
I don't think it was legitimate. I think it was put out there to see how much control any one person had.
It was testing.
Yes, and I think, and something else is going to come up sooner or later that's going to be the results of what that testing showed them, where they're going to make a demand. I don't think they figured out what they have to do yet, but everybody stay away. But I don't think it's going to work this time around.
No, I think
people are going to
people have gotten
question it,
smarter,
yes.
And they've realized. I questioned it from the beginning. I wrote an article for
well, if you notice, our church didn't close.
No, we didn't. And I wrote an article with a friend who we put it in a law enforcement magazine. And it was really all it did, and I'll probably republish it again just to bring it out. All it did was question the government. And I know that's a big thing.
Well,
Questioning the government. My goodness, how could we do that? Well, I'm from the government, and I question the government. You know?
when I was a deputy sheriff, several of us in a group just sat around and we thought, now, what we're doing is we are protecting good people from bad people. That's what law enforcement is supposed to do and at its peak. But nevertheless, suppose everyone, or not everyone, the majority decided they're not going to go along with what is being put down. Nothing nobody can do about it.
No.
Because how many jail cells are available?
Right.
None.
Right.
So if you're going to arrest 10,000 more people, that's fine. Where you're going to put them?
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to tell them they're just going to have to stay in their house. Oh, really? And if they don't stay in their house, what are you going to do about it? So all you can really do is just leave it alone.
You
We
know,
have to approach this from a love walk rather than a demand.
otherwise you end up like China. When the lockdowns happened, they literally boarded people in their apartment complexes. They did it. They released this virus intentionally.
Here's the thing now about that. I've been to China. They boarded maybe a few people that they showed on TV. They did not board everybody because
Listen.
there's too many people.
And you got that right. Because, well, they were murdering 6,000 people a day. And I know this, I know these numbers because we know how many bodies they were burning and what locations. We know everything. So China may think they got one up on us, but we know exactly what they're doing. The problem is that people saw this opportunity to run this test. And that's why we locked down. The damage that has been done to everyone over this lockdown
And
was
everything.
crazy.
And everything. Yeah.
Absolutely nuts. I mean, I remember enjoying myself going to, we've never had a lot of money, but, and I'll tell you, Christmas time, bringing up 4 kids, I would sit in the car and just cry like my mom did. She would say, and I didn't understand it at the time, but now that I'm a mom, I understood. I was exhausted. We had no money. I was buying their Christmas presents at the 99-cent store, and I was thankful I could get them each one, you know? And so it was absolutely, it was just tore at my heart that I couldn't get them. I mean, the good news is that they learned more about Jesus and why we do what we do. They also every year insist on doing a birthday cake for Jesus because my daughter's birthday is the 23rd of December. Our anniversary is the 24th. And then Christ's birthday was 25th.
You're busy, huh?
We had a lot of cake, a lot of cake. But everybody struggles. It's your generation, my generation, their generation. We all go through this. And you know what? I don't think it ends. I think we just keep going. And we make it through by God's grace.
Yes.
And by praying and thanking him ahead of time for what he's delivering. Because we can't always see what's coming.
Well, it's interesting. I found out if you read your Bible regularly, I don't mean just kind of glance over and call out words, but actually read it for understanding. Your expectations change.
Ooh.
And your expectations come from, say, a level of 10 where they normally are to a level of 50 where they're supposed to be. And people have missed that. This is what this putting the word of God down and putting church down and putting quote unquote religious people down has to do with. It's an input from the spirit realm that the average person is not even aware of.
Well, I think we have to get out of our own way because God has bigger expectations than we do.
Exactly.
And so we have to kind of believe what he says in that Bible. And when you look at it, I mean, look at David in the Bible. Look at all he went through. And his life was up and down, right? And those Psalms, all of that tells you exactly
Yeah,
exactly
what he
where.
went through. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So he didn't have it easy. And
No,
he was a king.
no. Yeah, he was the boss.
Yeah, you couldn't get any higher.
Right, right.
And yet he still struggled. And
Hmm.
I'm sure he still struggled day to day. I bet you he had kids running around. He's like, "Oh my God, honey, get rid of the, what are these kids doing?" You know what I'm saying?
Sure enough. Yeah.
Because we put them on a pedestal when they're in the Bible. What we don't realize is they were like us.
Well, it's interesting you say that we put him on a pedestal. I not only had him on a pedestal when I was young, I thought, well, I didn't want to call it fantasy,
Mhm.
but I didn't recognize them as real people.
Yeah,
They
they were
were
a story.
there were stories in the book.
Yep.
But then as I grew older, I realized, oh, these are just real people living life,
Yeah.
and we learn from their mistakes,
Right. And
you
sometimes it's
know?
just a little bit. Like there's a little
Right.
story in there about someone.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the lady at the well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She had that little story. And 2,000 years later, we're talking about
We're talking
her
about it.
faith
Right, right,
and her faith in God.
right,
And when she recognized Jesus Christ as who he was, and the excitement, the passion that she had to tell everybody. She couldn't even contain it.
right,
And
right.
and Jesus is like, "Go ahead."
Yeah, yeah,
Until then, he was keeping it quiet.
yeah.
And then she saw who he was.
It's interesting. You said she recognized Jesus. A lot of people, they get confused. Well, if Jesus is God, how can he be a man? Well, if you know the story in Scripture, he came to earth as a baby. He could only come as a baby.
Hmm.
And he grew up and he was God the whole time. But he didn't do anything until he started his ministry, which was at 30 years old.
Hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's really something. I knew from the time I was 12 that I would eventually be in ministry. Now, I didn't know I would be a pastor, but I knew I had what's called the calling of God on my life. Um, and all I had to do was just keep going on. I just acted like a normal person, etc. And then one day, these things manifested themselves.
Hmm.
Well, that's what happens in life. All of us have a purpose in life. All of us have a calling in life, not necessarily to ministry,
Right.
but we have a calling. Your calling may be to trim all of these trees, etc. Your calling may be to go up and down on that elevator all day long as you run that handle back and forth.
I don't
Your
think they do that anymore.
I think they do. Yeah, remember, I'm from the East Coast.
Oh, maybe in the
Yeah,
East Coast.
they didn't get rid of them elevators because they ain't got rid of those buildings.
Now they go push the button.
No, no. Some of that you can't do anymore. So those
Yeah.
buildings are so. But we won't even get into that. That'll take me off on a tangent I don't want to go to. But it's amazing how the little things that the scriptures have taught over the years and people have taught one another over the years when we were more in tune to doing right than we are today, how differently that generation turned out.
Right. And if we want to save our children, we have to get back to the
Yes.
Bible.
And I believe we will.
Well, and I think so
definitely will.
too.
Yeah.
I think there's, like I said, this week has been super chaotic in the world. They have now admitted that there has been two attempts on the president's life, and I'm talking President Donald Trump's life.
And there'll be two more.
There's going oh
There's going to be two more.
well, I'm just going to pray for his safety and his
Yes.
family.
Yes. He'll make
they-
it through them, but there are going to be two more.
They warned him that and this never comes out. This is I was so mad, hopping mad this week because by them stating this, they got more people interested in doing what they wanted them to do. This is all it's all part of 1984.
It's control.
They said that the feds said the FBI said that there was a what do they call it? They took out thing on his life. What is that called?
Contract?
Yeah, to kill him.
Yeah, right.
Right. They want him dead. So $150,000 is what they're saying.
Yeah, I had heard that.
Now,
Yeah.
frankly, that's not enough to kill a president. You're looking at millions of
Well,
dollars for that.
according to the Bible, you're not supposed to kill.
Right.
So,
None of that
whether
is
whether
right.
it's $150,000
$100
or 150 million,
Yeah.
or 150 billion, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're not supposed to kill one another. We're to love one another and lift one another up.
Well, and the
know.
problem is you got these people who have been indoctrinated into that
I
1984
know.
mindset,
I know.
and they're willing to do anything that the powers that be say. And the reality is they have no power over you. God has power over you. And what you do is up to you and God. You're going to answer for anything
Right.
you've done.
Right.
And so
right,
these
right.
people who think that it's okay to go and kill a human being, and I don't care who it is, are nuts. You better find God quick.
And they're not of sound mind.
No.
It's not in our nature to want to kill one another, but it's something that has crept in over the years. For one, it's too much TV watching.
Right. Well, it is.
There's no consequences.
It's not just TV. You see the movies. All of this has changed. And we've mentioned this before. It's changed and it's gone so violent. And what it does is it numbs you down to the sensitivity of it so that when you see it, you don't react the way you normally should react.
Right.
And we just have to tune that stuff out. If you're going to watch TV, find something good. I mean, my kids and I will sit down and we'll watch like a Christian movie. And we thoroughly enjoy it. The whole family is there.
It's good that you bring up Christian movies, but I look at Christian movies and I go, how did they come up with that?
Right, exactly.
That's not Christian.
Yeah.
That's not what you do.
like,
They're just making a point. No, they're not making a point.
yeah, I like the documentaries, the Christian documentaries. Those are fun. And I know this sounds crazy. Have you ever seen Oak Island?
Yeah.
I love Oak Island. I haven't seen it in a while because we don't pay for TV anymore. But I really want to, I think the new season's coming. I really want to see it. I love mysteries like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, digging for treasure.
Forever.
Isn't that what every kid dreams
Forever.
of?
Yes.
I mean, you always dream of finding treasure in your backyard.
Yeah. I'll tell you a treasure I found being from New York. I left out of my backyard and I went down this little path, we called it in the bushes, to get onto another block because I was late for school. Then I was running down the concrete and I took the little path that would lead me just a little shorter distance to get to the next block. Well, as I stepped into the path, I hit something with my foot and I tripped and I fell down. And when I fell down, I opened my eyes and I looked and I found a treasure. Under all of that green, there were strawberries.
Oh! And you had a good
I never
lunch.
told anybody.
You had a good lunch, huh?
I gathered a bunch of them, put them on. You know what strawberries do to your clothes after
They
you...
stain them.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that. But hey, it was good.
You learned though real quick.
Yeah, boy, but I ate some strawberries that day. It was beautiful.
But I think I love watching stuff like that. I love watching. I'm HGTV, DIY, those channels.
Sure.
I'd love to learn how to do that stuff. And I try it, and I'm usually, if I have instructions, I'm pretty good. If I don't have, sometimes I don't need instructions. I just take a look at it and I can figure it out. I'm like you and a mechanic. You're just naturally inclined to do that stuff.
You know how stuff goes together.
Yeah. And I've started, since we've been talking, I've started to think more logically about how things work. Because on the mechanical side, because I never really thought of it.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, you turn the water faucet on, it works. Great. Yay.
Yeah.
But
why does it work?
exactly.
And how does it work?
Okay, we've got a leak. So how come that is leaking here and why is this doing this?
Right.
So it's really interesting how I've changed. The only problem is I can't get under the sink to fix it. I might know how to fix it, but I can't
Well,
get under it.
it's an interesting thing. Has anyone ever thought When you go in the bathroom and you flush the toilet, where does it go to?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're going, where?
I mean,
Where?
it's just not you, it's a bunch of them.
No, yeah. I think we
Where
all
does
think
this
that.
go to?
Where does it go and
Well,
why?
it's interesting. If you search that out, you find out where it goes to. You go, oh my, this is genius.
Yep.
Because it goes someplace and they separate it. Next thing you know, they're reprocessing it. They are, yes, they are.
Yeah. And now they're starting to use it in California for drinking water.
Yeah. Well, it's always been though.
Yeah.
But people don't realize it, but it's filtered to such a degree you ain't gonna matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in Colorado and the mountains, so, you know, those
Yeah.
mountain streams, everything comes from above. The only problem is if somebody's peeing in the stream, then
Well,
you
you
drink
know,
that.
but that happens. What it's always been. Somebody pees on the ground, it goes down, goes down, goes
Right.
down, or goes up to a cloud, and comes back down as rain, goes back down to an aquifer, and then it's pumped out.
Yeah, it's all
You know,
filtered.
some people don't understand that the water, when you turn the water on, it comes out the faucet. They think that's a phenomenon. No, it goes through a plant that is putting water pressure in there. It's not just happening.
No, huh?
Yeah,
Which is interesting. You know, when you think about it, though, it's kind of the way our life works.
exactly. That's where God is behind us.
Yeah.
He put all of this good stuff together for us.
Yeah, and we just have to figure it out. That's our job.
Yeah.
Our job is to figure out what God's purpose is for us.
And relax and use it.
Yeah, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Just relax.
Don't
and
be
use it.
afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, he like I've told before, he puts blinders on us. Like when I walked into the
Thank God he put blinders
Oh, I
on.
tell you. Oh, I tell you, yes, yes, yes. You're so right in all different ways. When I told you when I went in to see the president and I walked straight across the room. I walked around the table. It was the big oval table, and I walked around the table and I walked instantly to where I was. Blinders on. I'm looking to go, where's the president? Where's he going to sit? And all of a sudden, I see no name. And I knew Melissa Melendez was the assemblywoman, and she was the highest ranking official at that he had invited outside of his cabinet. So I thought, he's got to be next to her. And then all of a sudden, I look up, and there's 200 photographers and camera people who had been coming in. I didn't even see them. I'm like, I think I would have been terrified. Even when I opened my mouth and I'm sitting there talking to the president and opening my mouth, it's like all of them disappeared. And I was just talking to him.
Sure, definitely. That's what you do.
And it's like, I had no idea. I had no idea what Scott Miller and my husband, why they kept referring to me as Esther. It took me months. And then I reread it on the plane going over twice. I'm like, I still don't see it. Don't get it. And so the blinders come on. So sometimes the blinders are there so that we can do what we need to do and we don't fear.
You don't fear, yes.
And
yes.
sometimes the blinders are there because there's something evil that you need to be protected from.
Well, bravery is walking into a situation that it's not going to matter to you how it turns out. Whereas fear is wondering, if I walk into there, am I going to be able to get to the other side? Bravery takes you through every time.
Yeah. That's
you have to do what you have to do.
That's what Daniel had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just be brave.
There's a lot of them that have had that. And that, you're walking up, he's got his rocks, right? It's Daniel, right? He got his rocks, and he had 5 stones, and he had one super large giant.
When this is over, remind me, I'm going to show you a stone that David probably used. I keep it in the garage.
Oh, nice.
Because most people think of a little rock.
Yeah.
That's not what it was. I'll show you the difference between a rock and a stone.
Because the sling was different, too.
Yes.
Because when we think of a sling, we think about
You think
like
of
this.
a slingshot.
Right, and that's wrong.
No, a
With
sling is a long, as much as 6 foot that you swing around your head.
I would have given
And
myself a concussion.
centrifugal. Yeah, centrifugal force builds it up, and finally you
Let it
let
loose.
side one go, or let one side go, and the rock comes flying out. We used to make them as kids. That's how I know this.
I, you
I
know,
was good with a sling.
I could not. I would have knocked myself unconscious. I went bowling one time and I told everybody behind me, I said, watch behind me, because I don't know how to bowl. And the minute I
You
said
swing
that,
your
I
arm
swung
back, the
back and
ball
the
will come.
ball left. I almost ran over an old lady. It was horrible. I was so humiliated.
That's funny.
But, I'm just sometimes some things I'm not meant to do. That's
Yeah,
just the way that
yeah,
is. I'm not meant to do certain things, and I think God gives us talents
that's
that.
funny.
And you know what else I think? I think when you're passionate about something, that's when you know it's coming from God.
It's
God puts
coming from God.
that
Yes,
passion and
yes,
ignites it. And for me, I was 17 and wanted to be a politician,
yeah.
but coming up, they told me I had to marry. Well, they told me that women didn't belong in politics. Period. That was the
Oh,
generation
you're
I
in
came in.
that generation,
Yep. And then
huh?
even as I came up in the 90s, they said you have to marry someone rich to get into politics because I was
Isn't it crazy how people have come up with these
oh
ideas,
yeah.
and it's not so.
No. And if God wants to put you in that place, he's going to put you in that place, but he does it in his own time. Because all the things that happened to me prepared me for what I do now. And I'm not a career politician. I am a mom of four. I am a wife. I am a Christian. I am so many things.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that I have in my heart regarding you that I don't think you know yet. At some point, I believe you're going to get called to a higher office than you ever expected. That's what I believe. You're going to pick up the phone and you go, oh, okay. And you're going to say, okay, before you realize you said okay, and you're out of California.
Oh, wow. That's a
Yeah.
way bigger office.
Oh, it's going to be a bigger office. It's going to shock you.
Okay. I'm going to look forward to it.
That's what
I tell you,
you think you're going to be looking forward to it. It's going to be work.
you know what? I'm always good with work.
All righty. But
I'm always good with
that,
work.
that's what's in my heart for you.
Okay.
So did God tell you? No, I can't say God told me that, but that's what's in my heart for you. So
Well,
I,
you're pretty accurate. Do you realize that you told me that I was going to speak before what did you say? Like auditoriums, like
yeah.
and then you came and did the prayer when I was at the WRCOG event and you said, "Oh my goodness." And you told me right before I came on, this is what I saw, this is
Yeah.
it. And I was like, okay
Well,
then.
I see things, Crystal, but they're not things that I talk about because God didn't tell me to talk about them. I believe He showed them to me. The reason is it's nothing evil. It's always good things, and it's always things that bring people up. But yet He didn't tell me to go out and announce it. He didn't tell me to stand in the pulpit and preach on it. So I don't. I just keep it in my heart until the time comes, I believe, to say something.
You know what else
Then I'll say it.
I think, and this disturbs me a lot because it's a political time and because people are so into themselves as politicians. And like I said, I don't mean everybody, but there's a few of them, more than a few of them,
Yes, regrettably.
that all they do is shout out all the good things they've done, or they've made up these good things, these good deeds, so that they look good for the public. And for me, I don't do that. I I feel more, it's personal with me. There have been times that, we've helped people out. We just don't say anything at all. And I think that's what God wants us to do. At least he wants me to do that. If we're helping somebody out, we keep it quiet. And I've been, helping people out all over the map. And by that, I mean, sometimes it's just a shoulder to cry on. Other times it's, hey, can you take my child for a few days so I can do something? Or, maybe it's something else.
Well, those
It's
are
all these little
things
things.
that people need.
And these are the things that people should be doing
Right.
and not thinking of themselves doing it.
Well, we're going back to that, I believe. I believe society has really focused in and saw the error of their ways, and they're changing. That's what I believe.
I hope so. And I hope
Yeah.
they're changing for the better. I hope we're a part of that change. I hope that people are getting something from this. And I know that we're out of time. So I'm going to ask you to join us next week. We will be at our regular time. It's going to be at 10 a.m. on Friday. So look for our podcast. Those who want to donate, the link is below for the church. Pastor Tom and the congregation, they would greatly appreciate anything you can give. And I'm going to ask you to share the podcast. We need to reach as many people as we can, and we can't do that without your help. So share the podcast. We're now on Spotify, I think. We're on all kinds of different formats. So Facebook is one that we do the live stream at. YouTube, we have it on, and we have so many others. As we progress down this road, we're going to get on more and more, and hopefully we'll be answering some questions. I would like people to email us. So I'll put my email down below, and email us some questions, because we would love to hear what you're thinking and what your concerns are, so we can address them. You're not alone.
That's
we
right.
all have concerns.
And remember, God has a covenant with you.
See you next time. Bye-bye.